Okay, we're talking about the top teams in the nation, and I asked this question: are the polls correct? These are the top teams that are ranked for a wide variety of reasons. A chunk of it's got to do with their heritage. Georgia, number one again. But my burning question: can Georgia be the same team without its do-everything quarterback Stetson Bennett and the fact that 7 guys from the dog defense are in the NFL right now? It's a team that's had injury problems. It's a team that's going to have a new quarterback. It's a team that's got to replace a lot of people on the defensive side of the football. So the burning question: is Georgia really the number one team in the country, and will they be as dominant as they were under Stetson Bennett? Alabama, we know their history, we know their heritage, but there is no Bryce Young at quarterback now after a couple of really glorious years. Is that a problem? Well, Nick Saban doesn't think it's a problem because they always develop players, and he's got a new quarterback. Somehow, some way, he got him from Notre Dame, the San Diegan kid, Tyler Buckner. So he is the starting quarterback for the Crimson Tide. They also have to replace a couple of their running backs along the way, and they've had an inordinate number of offensive line injuries in the last couple of years. I guess the burning question: is Alabama now what Alabama used to be? Because it sure doesn't seem that way, kind of because of the guy at Georgia, Kirby Smart. Ohio State, there is no C.J. Stroud, but there are running backs, and they got a great wide receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr. He might be a Heisman Trophy candidate at wideout. Burning question: Ryan Day's catching a lot of heat in Columbus because of what happened the last 2 Saturdays, the last 2 years in November, when they got punched in the mouth by Michigan. There's a lot of heat on Ryan Day about quarterbacks, play calling, etc. But the Buckeyes just have a plethora of talent. But the real stockpile of talent is in Ann Arbor. Whether you like or dislike Jim Harbaugh, like or dislike what goes on at Ann Arbor Stadium, like or dislike the Maize and Blue, let's be honest, this is probably the most talented team in the country. I was a little surprised they were not elevated, maybe to be number one. Quarterback J.J. McCarthy is back. Big-time running back Blake Corum, who missed the tail end of last year, knee surgery, he's back. Donovan Edwards, a running back to replace McCormick, went crazy at the end of the season against Ohio State. He's back. Top 2 wide receivers are back. Truckload of offensive linemen are back. And by the way, they do play defense in Ann Arbor. I think Michigan might well wind up to be the number one team in the country. This is an intriguing one. You look at the Texas Longhorn logo there. Steve Sarkisian has got a real different approach to this year. Final year of Big 12, a lot of angst. He says, embrace the hate. Sarkisian's got a young quarterback in Quinn Ewers. He does not have the star running back, Bijan Robinson, who's gone to the National Football League. Got a really good defense, ton of people because it's Texas and they can recruit. Sarkisian says, bring it on, all the hate in the Big 12 conference because this is their farewell tour. And the other team is Clemson. And I don't have an understanding what's happened there in the Deep South. Clemson's not what Clemson used to be. I mean, Clemson was dominant. Dabo Swinney and all things Tiger football and the orange uniforms. They've never replaced Deshaun Watson at quarterback who went to the NFL. They've really scuffled and struggled. Is it just a quarterback situation? Or is it a manpower situation? The losing players, not other people? Is it the growth of Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs? Clemson, which used to be at the forefront of the conversation, John, is not. So those are the marquee names in college football in terms of the rankings. I think Michigan's the number one team in the country, and some of these other teams have answers that they have to deliver us starting Saturday, most notably a quarterback.
Well, Michigan's going to be dealing with that suspension of Harbaugh to start the year, right?
Yeah, but that's 3 non-conference games. You do think they can beat East Carolina without Harbaugh, right? Okay.
Well, they lost to Appalachian State a million years ago.
That was a million years ago.
But, you know, obviously these teams are all loaded. These teams are marquee programs that big recruits want to go to. But don't you ever just get tired of the same teams? It's always Ohio State and Alabama, at least in the college March Madness. You know, there's a lot of dynamics. There's a lot of, upsets, but it just seems like we're always talking about the same programs.
Well, I was tired of Alabama, despite the greatness and extent. I was just tired of Alabama, Georgia. And then Georgia replaced Alabama, and that's the conversation. Everybody says, well, we'll just expand the playoffs. Well, the downside danger to that is, a year from now, they're going to go to 12. What happened in the championship game in January this past season? What was the final score of that game? I mean, everybody was excited about TCU.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, Texas Christian, Horned Frogs, wearing purple.
That was a thumping.
50-7.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, that you have the haves, all those right there, and you have a lot of have-nots, wannabes.
Mhm.
If they ever had a good season and got there, would it turn out to be 50-7? So it's a burning question. But I kind of agree with you. Alabama again, and now it's Georgia again.
Right.
But the top teams are the top teams. As cool as the idea of a 12-team playoff is, I think there's a lot of blowouts coming when we get to who's going to match up against Georgia, who's going to play Michigan, the big boys against everybody else. And I don't think everybody else that's in a 12-team playoff has any chance. It's very different than March Madness, where you can have Coastal Carolina or George Mason University step up and have a unique team, because it's only a 5-man team and they can shoot threes, and threes are the great equalizers in college basketball and all that. And it's not that way in college football, because that's 22 guys across both sides of the football. And you think you got 22 guys at Morehead State that can stand up to these guys?
Morehead State. Well, I like the idea of expanding the playoffs, because, it always seemed like the system was rigged for these guys, that you only pick the top 4. Remember, it used to be the top 2. It was only in it. So I like that they're opening up. Are we going to have some blowouts? Sure. But, we might have some surprises, and I think that's okay. I'm disappointed there are no West Coast teams in that big boy list, and maybe that's because the Pac-12 is blowing up. I don't know, but I kind of like it when it's a little bit East Coast, West Coast balance.
Well, I think USC they go into preseason, or the first game of the year, ranked 6th in the country. So they're right on the periphery, but they have to prove themselves defensively. I don't know why there's not more about the Oregon Ducks, because Bo Nix is a hell of a player. I mean, he was a SEC guy who left and went to Oregon. So we got at least 2 out here that'll, as the season goes on, will have a chance maybe to be part of it. So I guess this segment, to anybody that's with us on live stream on Fans Forum, jump on board. Do you think the 12-team playoff is going to be good, that idea, or do you think it's going to be 50-7, and this might not be real good for college football as everybody projects it to be? Okay, John?